Welcome to this episode of the She Scales podcast, where today we are bringing some juice into your life, into your sales, into your business. And I'm going to be sharing with you how in my launch of one of my programs, Your Freedom Formula, how of that launch, 75% of the people that joined up to that program were already in before the doors had opened. 75%. And so this is going to be a really, really valuable podcast for you if you are wanting to launch and increase the number of people who are signing into your offers, selling out your programs, your courses, or whether you're going into your first launch and you want to learn from mistakes that I've made in the past. Because I have 100% been the person that has done like the sales and marketing and the hype and all of this, and I'm walking into launch week and I'll put my hands up to say I've freestyled and hot messed many a launch. Hello to my intuitive people who don't like too much plan, too much structure, and you just like to go with the flow. But then the flow comes into launch week and you're like, woohoo, what is happening? Totally get it, right there with you. I've done this many, many times. And while sometimes it has absolutely worked and it has just skyrocketed my results, brought me incredible people, and I've got away with winging it, there's also been times where I know that my results for the launch could have been 10 times what they were had I have come at it with a better plan and either warmed up my audience more or posted more content or had more conversations or, sent more emails or just come at it with a bit more structure. So I wanted to share exactly what I did differently in this launch that allowed me to have 75% of the people, total number of signups, being in before the doors even opened, because that is a record for me. So I wanted to share some of the things that I did because it was a very different launch. And so I'm going to share with you 7 things that I did in this launch. So number 1 is a proper pre-launch. Again, this is a stage that I have skipped before, but if you are doing a proper pre-launch, this will massively change the impact of your results when it comes to actually opening the doors. So when it came to this offer, my Your Freedom Formula, this is the most excited I've been about an offer in absolutely ages. I'd had the idea, the breakthrough had come to me whilst I think I was at spa day. I was having a facial done. And the idea just dropped in and I was really, really excited about it. However, I wasn't going to rush the process. I was excited enough about it that I knew that I wanted to do everything properly. I wasn't just going to freestyle it. I wasn't going to rush it. And I wanted to take my time with this to honour the process and actually do the offer and myself the justice of doing it properly. And so, yes, was super, super excited. Didn't want to rush the process. I spoke about the offer name to a few people privately who were like, this offer is incredible. This is the perfect fit for you. And that gave me just the spring in my step to know that I was on the right track. So I knew that I'd got a great idea, but I hadn't road tested it. And so that was my first thing to do, is to go out and do a load of market research with people. I think I did, I'd say between 10 and 20, all phone calls, none on like stories or questionnaires. I was reaching out to people, getting on calls with people, doing voice notes with people, and really hearing what my audience were telling me. I was asking questions. I was seeing what they were struggling with, what they were coming up against, what that was causing in either their business or their life, to be able to really see what an offer like Your Freedom Formula, you got to understand, where is someone not feeling free for an offer like that to be a good fit. So I was going and doing the research, asking the questions, and literally writing down people's answers and then asking another question off the back of that. These were detailed calls, all about half an hour each, where I could really speak to people and really understand where they were at, what they needed, before then running over what my idea for this framework of the offer was. So I'd already got the messaging and my idea for it all just written down. And so those market research calls were the chance for me to be able to say, hey, I'm going to share my screen and literally walk people over my exact offer to get their feedback for it. And so when you do that, I described who the person, who would be a good fit for this offer. Then I shared my screen to say, here's the process I'm going to take people through. Here's the other things that are included. Here's the result it's going to help people to get. What do you think of something like that? And actually just listen to people's feedback, listen to people's input, their advice, their ideas. Do they have any questions or reservations about something like that? What are their thoughts around the price point for an offer like that? All of this, and I was writing down the answers. And so I was really collecting a body of evidence of people, their thoughts, their feedback, and I just created such a succinct, it just really helped me flesh things out. I was already pretty clear, but having all of that evidence and those opinions and questions and either new ideas that I could implement helped me build out such a solid offer that it took my confidence level for this offer from I'd say it was probably pretty high. It was probably a 6 or a 7 anyway, but this took it up to a 9. I was like, this offer is freaking banging, absolutely banging. So now I was backed with data, but I still wasn't rushing. Even though I'd backed it with evidence, I really still wanted to allow myself time in the launch. And so this is where I mapped out my solid launch plan. Again, this is just pre-launch. I've collected my evidence. I am building out my launch plan. So what I mean by this is getting really clear on certain dates and certain timelines that I either want to have things out by or announced by, or strategies, things that need to be done behind the scenes, as well as upfront, publicly, front of house is what I say. So I'd mapped out my solid launch plan that I was really happy with. Me personally, I do love a spreadsheet. I do love a spreadsheet. So I have a launch planner. P.S. If you're someone that has downloaded my launch planner, that's the one that I use within my own business. If you haven't already, I'll pop the link underneath so that you can. But that's the one I use within my own business. But you'll see it's very detailed. So what I actually do is take an overview of that and I put that on my whiteboard so that I can go into the detail when I'm on my laptop and see what are the individual tasks that need doing. But on my whiteboard, I've got an overarching view of the whole launch. So that'll be bigger milestones or projects or key dates and deadlines will be on the whiteboard so that every single day I can look at where are we, where do we need to be and when. Got a real top line overview. It's a little bit of corporate speak, but there we go. And so I'd got all of this plan in place. I was super excited with it. And I knew, now that I'd done my market research, that I'd actually got a really good pool of people that could be interested in this. So backed with all of that, it then meant, which is my number 2, I've got a juicy as fuck offer with clear outcomes and clear messaging. This is number 2. This is how you get early sign-ups before the door has opened, is being really freaking clear in what your offer is and what it does. How is it going to change people's lives? So because I'd gone off and done my research, because I'd really got to understand what it was that my ideal client wanted and needed, and how they described the things that were in my offer, or how they described their current lived experience that my offer was helping with, it then meant that when I was talking about my offer or creating content about it, I'd got the language that my ideal client uses to go and create that messaging with. So this 100% has a massive impact on the outcome of your launch, because I didn't have a whole host of questions of, will this thing work for me? Because I was very specific in who it's for and how it helps. So that eliminated me from having a lot of questions. The people that came in all knew it was a great fit for them, and that everybody in the offer is a perfect fit for your freedom formula. So I didn't need to do any convincing. My content did all the work for me because of my clear messaging. So really, really important to get not just your juicy offer, but have those outcomes and the messaging really clear. What is your ideal client going to be able to have or have done after your program or your offer? What are those results? What are those outcomes? So I made sure those were super clear, and that the process to get to those outcomes and results was also clear. I wasn't just saying, here's what life is going to look like after you've taken your freedom formula. I was saying, here are the steps we're going to be going through inside your freedom formula to help you get there. And so it's not just a case of painting the vision of where your ideal client desires to finish up. It's about you paving the path, showing them that if they do these things in this order, which is your framework, the actual premise of your program, that if they do those things, that's how they get to that desired result. If someone can look at your messaging and see what the outcomes are, and look through the process and see that that is a logical part, that if they go through steps, these 5 steps, let's say, that they'll be able to get to that result. Again, this is going to be an easy, no-brainer decision for people because the route to their goal is super clear. So there's that part. Number 3 is opening a waitlist. So by this point, let me just recap. We'd got the pre-launch. So this is me building the evidence and making sure that I had road tested my idea and it wasn't just my assumptions of what people want. I was going out and backing it with evidence. Then I'd got clear on my actual launch plan and personally written it on a wall because that's what works for me. So number 2, that had given me my juicy offer with my clear messaging. So I can then start promoting it on social media and start creating content around either the frustrations or goals of my ideal client. Start warming up my audience as part of this launch. Which brings us to number 3. When I'd started creating interest and I'd let my email list know that this thing was going to be coming, I'd let my social audience know that this thing was coming. I'd let my Facebook group know that this thing was coming. So I decided to open a wait list. And I knew that I was going to host a masterclass anyway later on in the launch. And that'd be my, big event for people to come try me on, see what the program was about and also learn something. But before that, I wanted a way for people who were already identifying themselves in my content, my messaging, for them to be able to come forward and let themselves be known to me. And so this is why I opened a waitlist. This was my way of, giving my warmest people a space to come forward, to let them know if this thing sounds like it could be for you, join this waitlist because there's incredible bonuses and early join-up bonuses to be had by doing so. So if you already know that you're super interested, or at least think you might be interested, it'd be worthwhile getting on the waitlist because there are savings and bonuses to be had. So that really, really helped. This allowed me to build a whole list of people who were already interested in the offer just from what they'd seen in my content, and then give them the option to move forward early. Because not only did I build a wait list, but I actually used more automations and sequences than I've ever used in a launch before. So I had already pre-written all of the emails that my waitlist received. So not only did they join the waitlist, but then they would get consecutive emails. I think it was like 4 or 5 already pre-built into a workflow that would just drop them over depending on what day they joined. Again, this program was called Your Freedom Formula. It was about taking the legwork out of launching by doing these things early so that when it's in your launch or you're in your sales period, you don't need to be writing emails. So I did it all in my pre-launch. Again, the different things will work for you based on the launch that you want to have. For me, I knew that in my key sales period later on in the launch that I was going to be flying. So not only was I going to be massively disrupting my routine and taking myself away from my normal working environment and quite literally flying to the other side of the world, but that on the first day of my program being available to buy, literally day 1 of my open cart period, I'd be on a plane, probably out of Wi-Fi. Maybe I'd get a little bit or at the stopover, but potentially 24 hours on the first day of my launch, I would be offline, which is a bigger challenge than I've ever given myself during the launch before. So I knew that I needed to get my ducks in line earlier in this launch and A, not leave things till the last minute, but B, really lean into automations, scheduling, workflows, and have systems doing the hard work for me. This is where your freedom formula comes in. And so when it came to the waitlist, people were joining that and able to really get to know not just me, but understand the program and what the early sign-up bonuses were. Again, before I'd even announced publicly my masterclass or a lot about the actual program. So that massively helped because all my warmest people were already on there. Now, what I also want to add is that not only did I have the waitlist going, but I also chose to do a bit of a different strategy that added on to the waitlist, because whilst the waitlist was awesome and I'd got it there working in the background and people receiving those emails, I mean, maybe this is the impatient person in me, but also I'm not really an email girl. I do it because it's effective. It allows me to speak to a lot of people, allows people to open it in their own time, and it's a really effective other method, another way to speak to people. So 100% is valuable. Is it my choice of method? No. My choice of method is Instagram, stories, video, and feeling like I'm connecting with people. An email, I don't feel that connection as much. And so I chose to, in addition to having the waitlist, to put everyone that was on the waitlist and add them to my close friends story on Insta. And now what that did is allow me to feel like I had a way to speak to people rather than just waiting to see if they'd open an email. And it meant that where a lot of my best energy is in the moment stuff, and I get a creative idea or I even get a question, that I can quickly create content on that and answer the question, and that everybody can see the answer privately in my close friends on Insta, and that only waitlist people can be getting either that higher level coaching or closer proximity questions or specific questions about the program. And so what it meant is that by doubling up on the waitlist and opening my close friends, I got to have a much closer relationship with the people who were interested in the program. So I'd say actually close friends list was a huge factor in those 75%. A lot of them were on that list. So what I would say for you is, what is the way that you work best in, and really lean into that. Yes, use other formats so that people, whether they're a watcher or a reader or however best they like to consume content, that's something there for them, but create in the best way that you create content and that people are used to you seeing. People are used to seeing you. That's the one I was looking for. So yes, I'd say the close friends addition on top of the waitlist massively helped me, because there was times where I was either teaching on there was times where I was doing Q&A, or for a little bit of urgency stuff, if I knew my masterclass was coming up, I could use my close friends list to remind people what the deadline was before they needed to take action. So great little bit of reminding people what the bonuses were, what the fast action bonus was, what the saving is, and when that's going to end, so that people can just come straight into my DMs from there before they miss out on that bonus. Woo! I'm gasping, walking around the room. And so 100% leverage what you already do well and see how you can create a closed group in that area. And maybe for you, it is a closed Instagram channel or your close friends or your waitlist. However it is that you can create a closed group where ideally nobody can see the other people in that space and it feels like you're speaking just to them. That's the perfect scenario. So that was number 4, because I went from opening a waitlist. Number 4 was being prepared to switch things up. So for me, that was adding the close friends list rather than just relying everything on waitlist, and deciding to get a bit more creative and opening my close friends. So that massively helped me to gauge interest and specifically who was interested the most. And then I could have follow up with people in DMs to have better quality conversations, or to be like, hey, let's just go with the name, Becky. Hey, Becky, seen that you've been binging all my close friends. Have you got any questions about the program, Your Freedom Formula? And then we can just have a really good conversation about the program. So pay attention. Who's opening your emails? Who's clicking through stuff? Who is... Because the thing is, on your main grid content, this person might be not liking, and you can't see if they're saving. So when it's the front of house social media stuff, it's kind of hard to gauge who's watching. And for sure, there will be people that just come out of the blue who haven't liked anything, haven't, given you any signals that they're even watching. So all you can do is the best that you can with your freebie, with your waitlist, with creating a great free launch event to give the people who don't just come out of the blue and want to jump straight into your offer the chance to try you on or just get a bit more information about the program before they dive in. So that was number 4, is being prepared to switch things up and not being completely static with what your launch plan is. Number 5 was doing the unexpected. So where I've hosted launches in the past where I have been just not stuck at home, but I've chosen to be very present during that launch. So whether that is I've not gone to the gym as much because I'm like, go, go, go. Whether that's because I'm replying to people, or I want to post more content in that time, or I'm glued to the laptop, or I'm doing follow-up, or wanting to make sure I've answered people's questions in DMs, or I'm looking at who came to the masterclass, did I send out the replays, who's watching the replays. There's plenty that you can do, which can mean that you're not stuck, but if you want to be super, super present, that you're on your phone and on your laptop religiously. And I have done that before, where launch is like, go, 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 go. However, in this one, I really wanted to switch things up and just almost change my relationship to launching, to break pattern, break routine, because that's when I really thrive, is when everything just turns upside down and there is no normal. So you create a new normal. I freaking love that. So I decided to throw out the rule book and dramatically change my routine, not just by flying to another country during the launch, but that first day, the entire day was on an airplane on a flight. So like my day 1 of doors being open, I was online because I covered my stories. So I was visible, but I wasn't actively selling. And I couldn't respond to messages. So that, on the first day of your launch, you'd think would be like, oh my God, she couldn't possibly. And yet it was freaking perfect, because there'd already been so many people that had already joined the program by that point, that when I held the masterclass and then caught a flight the next day, there were already so many people already in the program that I just had such a good energy about selling this program. It was called Your Freedom Formula. I was having loads of conversations off the back of the masterclass that I'd held the night before flying, which meant that people had already got the links that they needed and the information that they needed, which means that people were signing up whilst I was on the flight. So the whole thing I'm telling you about Your Freedom Formula, the whole point of it being something where people can buy no matter whether you're in the air or scuba diving on the bottom of the ocean, and you can just be signing high-ticket clients from wherever you are in the world, I showed that by signing high-ticket clients whilst I wasn't in Wi-Fi. So it just set my launch off in the best way. Like, I was flying from Bali to Taiwan and then to LA. And I did the Bali to Taiwan, and I was waiting there. I think I had about a 4-hour layover, and I checked my phone to see that someone had joined. And I just could have cried happiness, because everything that I'd wanted to create with this program was there. People were signing up, they were starting the program. I was signing clients whilst I was on an aeroplane, and it changed my relationship to sales. It changed my relationship to launching. So it's really, really incredible for that. So that boosted my energy, creativity, my inspiration, everything switched up, which when I change up my environment, all of that shifts up massively anyway. So having that happen on the flight out there just 10x'd my energy, 100%. And so that was number 5, is doing the unexpected. So I'm not saying that you need to get on a whole flight unless you want to, but what's something where you could switch up your routine, especially if your audience are used to seeing you in a certain room or in a certain environment or in a certain place. How could you switch up your environment to make it really fun, really engaging, and make people so curious to be like, where is she? Where's she going? Switch things up for you, but also for your audience, because that curiosity will have people locked on and have your visibility and reach skyrocketing. So that was number 5. Number 6 was focusing on relationships. There's been times where, and hopefully you don't do this, where you can launch and be doing all the things you're meant to do in a launch, like post the content, send the emails, open up your group, blah, 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 blah. But if you're not having conversations with people, one-on-one, behind the scenes, what are you expecting to happen? There's only so much warming up you can do without actually speaking to people like they're human and actually qualifying who this offer would be a good fit for on a one-on-one basis, because those people are in your audience. They're just either waiting for you to come forward, or they haven't seen enough from you for them to come forward. So make sure that you are having like real good conversations and focusing on those relationships, your content, your stories, your lives, and all of that front of house stuff, the email sequences, and the back of house stuff. So the emails, the automations, all the behind the scenes stuff, all of those things can be happening, but the magic that brings all of that together happens in DMs. Human to human, talking, answering questions, and this is based on the trust and relationships that you have with your audience. Most of the people who signed up for this program were already familiar to me in some way. Some were brand new to my world, but those people had come and binged the podcast first. So there was relationship built in that sense. They already knew me, they trusted me, they knew about my area of expertise, and so there didn't need to be a whole level of qualifying questions or conversations. It was, they'd come, listen to the podcast, and then said, Sarah, I've seen that you're talking about this program. Would this be a good fit for me? And it was as simple as that. So remember that all the launch actions in the world and having a great masterclass and your emails and your social media content and doing all the things can only get you so far. It's your relationships and the time that you spend in DMs answering questions. And this is where, I'm just going to add a little caveat here, all the work that you do throughout the rest of the year really shows. Because if you only post and ghost and you don't speak to people and you don't build relationships, you don't answer questions on lives, you don't build community, that's going to show when it comes to your launch. Because people will see you go through all the motions, but they don't have that personal connection to you. So make sure that all year round, not just when you're in a launch, you're building real relationships with people. You're giving them chance to come forward. You're answering questions. You're doing live Q&As. You're giving people a chance to get a glimpse of working with you, building relationship with you, liking you. So yes, whilst all the stuff is important, the magic happens in DMs. And then lastly, having the most fun. This was the most fun launch I have ever had. It was the most fun, like the whole launch was incredible, but specifically the 2 weeks where it was cart open, it was available to buy, was arguably the most fun 2 weeks I've ever had, because I'd combined it with a trip to LA. So I was on a business retreat, I was meeting new friends, going to new places. I was doing all of this incredible stuff. I went wine tasting. I had a private wine tasting. I went to the Jennifer Hudson show and I was sat in the live audience and even got pulled up and was asked to go speaking. So I appeared on TV. I went to Hollywood Hills. I went to go stay with my friend. I saw dolphins. I went on a little road trip. Like, I just did so much stuff. I was living my life every single day. And I was still really present for the launch. So it'd work out like I'd wake up in my hotel and film my content for the day and then go off and have an adventure and people would just be signing up. It was just freaking incredible. To really hammer this point home, I signed a client. I did some lives and content whilst we were at the retreat, but I know at the big events, so I signed a client whilst I was at Jennifer Hudson, and we were had to be off Wi-Fi there because you couldn't have any phones on in the audience, so I was off on airplane mode then, signed a client there. The private wine tasting, we'd gone out into the middle of nowhere, and I hadn't activated my US SIM there, so I was off Wi-Fi again, and in between wine tasting I managed to connect to the Wi-Fi at the place and saw that I'd signed a client whilst I'd been wine tasting. Like, it was just the most cherry on the top of the cake experience. I just couldn't freaking believe it. Obviously, it was everything that I'd built the program for, but to have clients coming in at such incredible times that not just were examples of me living my most main character energy life and my most freedom-filled life. So I was embodying everything that I talk about in the program and what I help people to achieve, but also, I don't know what the also was there. It was just the sweetness of the timings of each of the client signings. I was like, wow, it really, really blew my mind. So yeah, that launch looked nothing like any launch I'd ever done before. No routine, different environments, different hotels, different travel, different country, different time zone, different daily routine, and yet the most fun launch ever. Absolutely freaking incredible. So I wanted to share this with you because those strategies of having fun, being really clear in my offer and messaging. In fact, let's recap from the top, shall we, over those 7 things. Number 1, proper pre-launch. If you skip past this phase and you get into your launch and then your offer messaging is like all over the place, or you end up moving dates back because you haven't done things in time, or you realise that you've not sent enough emails but you've not got time to sort about it later, or you've not posted enough content but you didn't leave yourself enough time, you need to go ahead, or you end up pushing things back because you feel rushed. Like, girl, no. If you're coming at this as an organised, multi 5-figure launcher, because this is your quickest way to multi-6 figures, is getting this and doing yourself the honour of properly planning this. Do not skip this stage. So, proper pre-launch. Number 2 was having a juicy as fuck offer with clear outcomes and clear messaging. Feel that is clear enough. Having those clear outcomes, clear messaging, that then will be your content plan, your email plan, your sales page messaging. It will be the premise of what your freebie is. Like, everything ties into what is your offer and how is it changing people's lives. Number 3 for me was opening a waitlist. That massively allowed me to see who was already aligning themselves as warm and interested from the content I'd already posted. That allowed me to capture a lot of interest that way. Number 4 was being prepared to switch things up. So me being impatient with email lists and wanting a bit more closeness to the people who were saying they're interested, so that I could really gauge who was genuinely interested, who I could have conversations with. So for me, that switch up looked like going to Instagram stories, close friends list, and being able to create in a way that really worked well for me. Number 5 was doing the unexpected, throwing the rule book out the window, not being glued to my laptop and my phone, and doing something sporadic that absolutely brought my audience on a journey with me. for them to be like, where is she going? What is she doing? Oh my God. And it just skyrocketed my visibility. Number 6 was focusing on relationships, spending that time in DMs with people, qualifying voice notes. Is it a good fit for people? Where are they at right now? What are they looking for help with? So that you can make sure that the people coming into your program are a perfect fit. And then lastly, having the most fun. When you're showing up and you look bored or you look stressed or your energy is drained or you haven't slept enough, that's not engaging to watch. People want to see you living your best life during your launch. So even if you're not traveling around the world, make sure that you're booking fun activities or spa days or self-care to really make sure that you're in your best energy and showing up as that throughout your launch. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I'm going to drop underneath here my launch planner so that you can steal my planner, map out your proper pre-launch, go do your market research, get evidence about this offer and get really clear on what the messaging is for it, what the outcomes are for it, so that when you're coming into your launch, you've not got any of the heebie-jeebies. You're really clear on who it's for, how it helps them, and how it's going to change their life. And if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to launch things from the sky, I want to sign clients from anywhere, anytime. I want to be serving people in offers that they don't need me to be available to be able to buy from me. If you want to create your scalable offer, whether this is your course, great program, whatever it is for you, come inside your freedom formula. I invite you in to join this program so that you can be part of the action takers who are already in there, who are launching their scalable offer, being able to serve more humans whilst they're out and about living their lives. All right, ladies, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll link everything in the comments underneath here for you. And I hope that you have a wonderful week. Speak soon. Bye.